We're going live. Are we live? Good evening, everyone. Good evening, gladiators and suits. I hope you're all having a great today's Wednesday night so far. Tanjiro knows that I'm going live now, so he's trying to get into the camera. Welcome. Welcome to our career talks, which as much as I am enabled by my schedule, we do this every 9 o'clock in the evening here on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and occasionally on Instagram when my other phone works. Today is going to be a very exciting topic because I think a lot of our participants, some of you viewers, have been working from abroad for quite a while. And I'd like to pick on your brains. Tonight's session is about asking, what do you think about working abroad? What do you think about working in your home country for the rest of your life? Have you ever considered working abroad? And if ever you have, but you haven't yet applied for a job abroad, what's making you stay in your home country? Is it your family? Is it because you're already happy with what you have? For example, Angie, is it because you don't like the idea of uprooting yourself from your home country and having to start anew in a different home country? So all of these things we're going to be asking them in today's session. And before we start, I'd like to do a quick attendance check. Just also want to check my audio if it's working loud and clear. Could you please give me an exclamation mark? Just want to check. While we do that, I'm also going to check now some of the comments on TikTok as well. Okay, there you go. It's Maria Digital says, fan of yours since The Apprentice. Thank you. It's been 10 years. 2023 actually marks the 10 years since we've had the show. There you go. Finally seeing folks. Noor is also saying hello from Malaysia. Thank you for telling me that it's all loud and clear. Also have Jays Mangubat from LinkedIn. Thank you. Yvonne is from Facebook. Penny is also from Facebook. Charina, Irish, Kathleen, thank you for joining me as early as now. Anand says hello from LinkedIn from India. Thank you. Luis already answered my question, and he says, basically, I'm in my home country because of my family and my life partner. Mbogo Christopher says hello from Uganda. Penny also says hello from Vietnam. So we have a handful of folks that are joining and chiming in from abroad. So thank you. Would like to pick on your brains in a while about working from your home country or working from abroad and taking on that journey of meeting new people, having to take a different set of culture in front of you, eating different cuisine on a daily basis. Is that exciting? Does the excitement fade for quite a while? All these things, we're going to ask all of them. And as usual, because this is a career discussion, we're not going to limit all of your questions only about the topic. As usual, you can ask me questions about your conflicts with your manager, your upcoming job interview, wanting to quit, wanting to move to a different company, conflicts with your colleagues, all of these things. I would love to hear them, and we'll try our best to answer all of them. Plus, may I also strongly encourage our participants, those who are watching this, you guys are also experts in your own rights because you have experiences in your career. So if you happen to chance upon someone else's question and we raise it, please don't hesitate to also share your answers on screen, and I will try to read them as often as I can. Okay? All good so far? So, Marcos, by the way, is hello, watching from Mang Inasal, Philippines. Are you right now from your watching during your shift? I had Mang Inasal chicken yesterday, by the way, for lunch. Roy Pinion. Jonathan, who do you follow for sales insights? Oof. I don't have anyone in mind. I don't really have anyone in mind right now. Top of mind, none. Mostly just motivational. I'm mostly into psychological behavior. So I follow Carol Dweck. I follow, of course, my favorite psychologists of all time, Angela Duckworth, Adam Grant, Simon Sinek. These folks are very. I'm specifically, or I'm leaning more towards data-driven folks who use a set of numbers taken from reality, experimented on them, and concluded an insight about how people work, how people get motivated, how people succeed. So I'm sorry, I don't have anyone I can refer to you. uh, okay. Could you please give us an exclamation mark, by the way, if you guys are ready to start? Because we'll start reading questions now from the participants. If you also haven't given us yet a like, we'll appreciate that. Case in point, for example, on TikTok, we already have 1,000 likes in just a span of 5 minutes. So thank you for that. You guys on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you guys are giving me nothing. I would appreciate if you could please give me more likes. Not because I'm thirsty for likes, but because I think it will help us improve our algorithm. It will help us reach more folks. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Someone was asking me, any book that you recommend? Oof, okay. It's actually in front of me right now because I was reading it over dinner. I bought this in a bookstore in Malaysia a few weeks ago, but I think there's also, this book is available in most bookstores. This is Daniel Kahneman, and it's called Nudge. Okay. I'm sorry for TikTok folks because the cover is inverted because that's how the screen is. But it's called Nudge, and it's all about how can I influence people to move by making minor adjustments to how I present myself to them. So I'll give an example, like at the very beginning of the book, they talk about how this someone who organizes the canteen for kids, how can they make kids eat healthier food just by changing the position of the food? If I put more carrots and peas in front, and if I lay them out more in front of the kids, will kids order them more? If I have burgers and fries, but I hide them, or they're at the end, for example, of the food display, does that mean that kids will tend to eat them less? So that's Nudge. And I love this because whenever I do workshops on leadership, I do workshops on motivation, I often talk about anecdotes on how organizations or companies successfully switch the behavior of their people. Okay. So yeah, Nudge. I think it's around, this is 700 pesos. In United States dollars, that would be around 12 or 15 US dollars. Okay. Okay, I think we have some questions coming in now. So let's answer them. You know what I also learned, by the way? I'm trying to check your TikTok messages on a phone instead. Why? Because someone complained and said every time I move the phone also wiggles. So I'm so sorry for that. That's why I'm going to be checking instead your, how do you call this, questions here on my phone, my separate phone. Okay, let's answer this question first. This is from Jerwin Hilario. Okay, what advice would you give to someone struggling to upscale just on their own and the leader does not care anything at all? I've answered this many times in a lot of my videos and in a lot of my posts. I had this moment when, okay, so someone mentioned about Apprentice Asia. I've also shared this before. When I was working with Tony, and I have so much respect for the guy, I remain to be one of his biggest fans because I think he has achieved so much. Mr. Tony Fernandez, meaning the owner and the co-founder of AirAsia. Unfortunately, when I started working for him a few months later or 3 months later, I started realizing I obviously am his apprentice, but he's got a lot of things to do. He's always traveling, and it's not like I can always travel for every bit of meeting that he needs to attend. There are days wherein he has to go to Europe or he has to go to the United States, and I have to be back home in Asia. And in those moments, and that happened a lot, In those moments, I didn't have a mentor. Even if I would message him, he would message late, and I can understand because of the time difference. So I had moments wherein I felt if I don't do anything about myself, I will stagnate, even if I am Tony's apprentice. So what did I do? I tried to befriend the other senior leaders of AirAsia. I tried to look up to other senior workers, even if they're not the CEO or the vice president. I talked and befriended to a lot of these folks. And every time I met up with them, whether it's for lunch or for drinks, I would ask questions about the industry. I would ask questions about, hey, you were listening a while ago to my presentation. What did you think of that? And I ask for pieces of advice on how I can improve talking to folks. So that for me is one of my simplest and yet most effective answers. If your manager doesn't want to be your mentor, you have to proactively look for other mentors within the organization. And sometimes they might be outside your company. It could be another friend from another company. It could be your ex boss. And this is why it's always good to be in good terms with your boss, even if you have left them because you've moved on to greener pastures. Okay. Of course, on top of that, I've watched tons and tons of videos on YouTube, Coursera, all of these TED Talks, for example. I will say that a lot of the things that I talk about in my motivational speeches and my books, a lot of them were borrowed concepts from what I've watched on YouTube and TEDx as well, TED Talks. So there. Okay. Ooh, I keep on looking at the. Sorry, guys. I still need to download TikTok on my other phone, and give me a few minutes for that. Okay. So, Jerwin, I hope I was able to answer your question. Um, okay. Mon Saspa is asking this question: if the person is struggling to upskill on his own, talk to the person, dig more, offer help, coach the person. And if his lead is not caring at all, find somebody else. So we're on the same boat, right? It's really all about changing your mindset that the only source of your learning is your boss. Not true. Yes, he is the primary source because you happen to report to them. But if the person's not budging, you can't just keep that relationship forever. At some point, you have to look for someone else while still being in the company. Okay. Um, okay, let's answer some more question. Ooh, Papa Heart on TikTok asks this question. Which is your priority? Or maybe this person, Papa Heart, I think is asking me to rank. Is it leadership, environment, or organization? Of the three, I would choose leadership. Why? Leadership has the power to change the environment. And I think that no matter how bad the environment is, if you have an amazing leadership, they can turn it around. Same thing also with the organization. Even if the organization may have low budget, even if the organization may have problems, financial or legal, talent can trump those challenges. Of course, not all the time. Obviously, it's not a perfect world. But I think more than anything else, the one that has the most amount of control, the most amount of agility to change the situation is going to be the leadership team. Okay. The second, I think, would be what was your second again? Sorry. Gosh. Organization, environment, or leadership. Ooh, I think environment will trump organization. Why? Environment determines culture. Environment determines actions of people. The way, if an office does not have proper air conditioning, if the office is just too far away from everyone and everyone keeps on getting late because it's too far away from their residences, it will determine the habits, the motivation, and performance of people. Because I think the organization is an after, it's the aftermath, it's the impact, it's the effect of what the leadership team and the environment is. So there. Thank you, Papa Hart, for that. That's a very good question, by the way. I thank you. I enjoyed answering that question. Okay. Sean Rizaga, by the way, from LinkedIn says, listening while working in the night shift. Thank you. I hope we're making your night shift more fun and worth it. Okay? L is asking me a personal question, but I'd like to connect this to something that I think can benefit others. How long do you usually sleep? 7 to 8, I think. Here's my when I was younger, my idea of sleep was that why do people need to sleep? I can get by with 4 to 5 hours because it's just weird to compute that if you've been sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day, that means you are sleeping one third of your life, which means that even if you live up to 100 years, you're actually only living 75 years of that because 25 years of that is equivalent to the amount of sleep that you've consumed all throughout. So I said, when I was younger, I will sleep less. I think I can do it. I think 4 hours you should be able to get by. And then I realized that that's how human beings are imperfect. This is the funny part because I only realized this when it finally took a toll on my health. When I was in my 20s, I would sleep at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then I would still go to work at 7 or 8 a.m. And then when you hit your 30s, you realize, gosh, even if I sleep 4 hours and I wake up with a good batch of coffee in the morning, after lunch, you just don't give your best anymore. You're duller in meetings. You're less sharp to look at numbers in Excel sheets. You're not as creative in your PowerPoint slides by the time you hit the evening. So I, as much as possible, take 7 or 8 hours of sleep a day. And what I also learned only during the pandemic, I was watching this documentary. 7 to 8 hours should not be a question. Even if okay, sorry, let me rephrase. Even if you sleep at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you tell to yourself that you have slept 8 hours, meaning you wake up at 10 a.m., it is still unhealthy, apparently, according to science. Because you should not be violating the circadian rhythm. So when you say 7 to 8 hours of sleep, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock should be your ideal time of sleeping. You should not go beyond midnight when your body has been awake already for more than uh, 18 or 19 hours. I didn't know it was like that. So now I try to, as much as I can, sleep before midnight. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I don't need to clock in a certain time. If I don't have a talk, if I don't have a travel or a trip, I stay at home. So I wake up around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. Oh no. Yeah, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. If I have more energy, I would wake up at 7 because I have to walk my dog. And Tanjiro cannot live without walking in the morning. And then yeah, that's it. Okay, guys, can we shift, by the way, to the topic? Because the topic is about working abroad or working from home, working from your home country. I would love to learn some insights. So could you please start typing them in the chat box now? What makes you stay in your home country if you happen to be still working in your home country? If you're working abroad, what made you decide to work abroad? And can you please share with us in the chat box what are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? What have been the costs so far? And if you were given the opportunity to start all over again, would you choose to work abroad? Okay. I would love to hear your thoughts, please. Okay, someone was asking me, John, are you giving away tickets to your workshops? Yes, we are. Please wait for that in a while. We'll do that maybe after 30 minutes. Okay. Dan says from TikTok, I want to work abroad because of my manager's ineffective leadership. Uh, yes, you can probably have that as the solution. But remember that when you work abroad, it does not guarantee that your manager is also going to be an effective manager, because there are a lot of bad bosses abroad as well. More so, sometimes they are good bosses, but because they have a different culture than yours, they can end up becoming bad managers for you. So it's not also a guarantee. Trisha Lafuente from LinkedIn is asking, do you think work from home setup is good in terms of work-life balance? Does it affect how you perceive your house as a work environment or as your home still? I answered this yesterday because that was our topic. I am a believer, I'm an advocate that you should have a balance. I do not like 5 days a week working in the office. I think we have already proven, based on science, based on a lot of anecdotes and experiments done here and abroad, that people do not lose their productivity if they work from home. So I would prefer Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, work from home, and then either Thursday or Friday or both work in the office. So I would go for 4:1 or 3:2. And why is that? I do think that physical interaction remains to be an essential part of our mental wellness. I also think that creativity is sparked and ignited if you get to physically see someone. If you can nudge them, see them at the pantry, see them at the elevator, catch them at the cubicle, these conversations will not easily happen if you're all working from home. So I'm a believer that you have to strike a balance. I also think that if you keep on working from home, you create an environment that can be full of stress. So here's what I learned during the pandemic. In the early months of 2020, I was working so hard because I didn't want to lose clients that no longer invited us for face-to-face workshops. So I had to hustle and I had to convince. Can I get an exclamation mark, by the way, if you're one of those guys who have been watching us during the pandemic, because I was doing a live session twice a week. That was every 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. every week. I would say we did more than 300, no, more than 500 webinars in 2020, 2021. I was that person. So I really worked a lot during that time. And every time I had to work, I was watching anime in my bedroom with my laptop. And I started realizing that the stress and anxiety was still there every time I woke up. Why? My body was associating the stress and anxiety with my bedroom because the bedroom was the same place where I was experiencing a lot of stress. Deadlines to beat, um, bills to pay. I remember there was a time, okay, I'm going to be speaking from a place of privilege here. There was a time where in April and May, it was the first time when our team did not hit our sales quota for our business. And while I was confident, and again, I'm speaking from a place of privilege here, while I was confident that we have an entire year or 2 years as our runway, if ever we don't get any other business transactions, I was concerned because I didn't know how the pandemic is going to end. Is this going to be permanently virtual sessions for me? Will I ever be able to get out of my home, for example? So that led to more anxiety, that led to more stress. And because I was spending more time in my bedroom, I hated my bedroom. Whenever I would see the bed sheets and the pillows, I often associated with the same mess I had in my life. So what I did was to change. I decided to deliberately avoid the bedroom for work. So I set up my own workstation in my living room, far away. And that is scientifically backed up. Your environment dictates your feelings at some point. So I'm lucky because I think I have a good amount of space in my apartment. I'm living in a two-bedroom apartment and pretty good space for my living room. But I can just imagine how it would be for someone who's living in a small space wherein the bedroom is also the workstation. So this is the reason why I'm a big advocate that you have to give your people some space as well to work outside. Doesn't have to be the office, but they can also work in a coffee shop or in another place where there's proper air conditioning, good soft carpets, and good food, for example, but still healthy food at the same time. So there. Hazel Salapa in LinkedIn says, if you work from home, never use your bedroom. Yes, I learned that the hard way during the pandemic. Okay, another LinkedIn user says this. This time it's about working from abroad or working from home country. So the LinkedIn user says, working at home in your home country, the advantage is the culture because you're familiar with the people and the culture. Working abroad, culture shock may be there. And well, the good thing is you can discover any other country's culture. Okay, let me chime in on this topic. So I've had an opportunity to work in Malaysia for 7 years, and I also have lived there for 7 years. I'm gonna make a quick disclaimer here. I worked for an airline industry, for an airline company, AirAsia. And if you happen to know, if you work for the airline industry, we get free flights. So we have what we call as your ID, as in the ID. ID 90 means just present your ID in the airport, you get 90% discount from the flights, as long as it's an AirAsia flight. I think Philippine airline employees, they get 70% discount. I think Cebu Pacific also have the same arrangement, but for most airlines, it's either 70% or 90%. Maybe some airlines also have 100%. But for that reason, it was so easy for me to fly back home, to the point that even if I technically say that I lived and worked in Malaysia, I was in Manila almost every other week. But in those 7 years, I stayed in my own place. I lived in my own apartment in Kuala Lumpur as well. And I can attest to this. My first 2 weeks in Malaysia was really a culture shock. It was a culture shock for food. Because mind you, if you live in countries like Malaysia or Indonesia and Singapore, relatively, if you are a Filipino, you will find their cuisine spicy. And I remember the first 2 weeks. I remember the first 2 weeks. I had, what do you call that in English again, Filipino folks? Almoranas. I forgot the name. So you basically have some bleeding in your down there. I had that because the food was just so spicy for me, and I had no choice but to eat that as much as uh, maybe lunchtime or dinner time, because in the canteen of AirAsia, that was mostly the food. I get by with Chinese food, and that's also served a lot in Malaysia, but I had to adjust. Today, I love spicy food now. I love Malaysian food. Love, love, love Malaysian food. If you catch me on Instagram, you would always notice that I post food uh, food posts whenever I go to Kuala Lumpur. Hemorrhoids, yes. Thank you, Riri. Thank you, Jaylane. Uh, J Choi and Nar, thank you. Okay, everyone's chiming in. So that was the adjustment. I didn't like it. Plus, this is just me. If you happen to be a Filipino, I think your standards for cheerfulness and hospitality is way higher, right? You will always assume that the streets will always have people laughing. The streets, or you're just asking for directions, someone's gonna help you easily. Um, Malaysian folks are also very, very friendly folks, but I just happen to have higher standards about cheerfulness. So a part of me felt that I wished that folks were as friendly as Filipinos, which I think is unfair to demand, but you have to get used to that, right? For example, can I get an exclamation mark? Uh, if you guys agree. I think we have that standards of cheerfulness in the Philippines. Like if you ride a train, it's going to be a noisy train. Someone's going to be singing, someone's turning on their smartphone rudely on loud mode, for example. Unlike, for example, in Japan, wherein it's almost uh, unspoken illegal to speak in the trains, especially in the morning, right? So I kind of miss that flavor, and it took me a while to get used to it. So that for me is the one thing that I think working from abroad is going to be hard. If you're the type who's used to being in the company of others, you're not going to easily survive. You will feel lonely. Some people can easily get depressed. Uh, I do have lots of friends that when they go to Scandinavian countries, wherein the sun does not even properly shine in certain months, they do get depressed. And that I think is going to be hard if you happen to be Filipino. Okay. Okay. 𝗪𝗠𝗥𝗘𝗘𝗥 from LinkedIn also says, I believe that if you have exhausted everything here in our home country and you feel that nothing is happening, I think that's it's only time to look for greener pasture overseas. Yep, I agree. For most Asian countries, my belief is that people don't go abroad just to look for better salaries. I think people go abroad to look for better lives, eventually settling down, if they can, for a permanent resident status or for citizenship. Okay? Which before, when I was younger, I would tend to judge and I would say, you're trying to turn your back to your own mother country. And then later on, when I realized how life can be so harsh, I felt so sorry for what I said. And I realized everyone has to make that choice at some point because everyone wants to have a better life. So when people go abroad and start working, the one of the most painful things that I think you will realize is, why do some countries have better transportation systems? Why is it that certain countries have better welfare? Their hospitalization is subsidized by the government. Why is it that certain countries have better ways of obtaining their passport, obtaining their driver's license? And so you start realizing, if I can enjoy all of these things in this country, I want to have this for the rest of my life. And so they end up staying despite the costs of having to adjust to a different culture, and despite missing their families, being homesick, etc. So, okay. Nor Shamiza says, I love Malaysian. Nor, may I ask, which country are you from? Would love to know. Okay, let's look for some more questions. Mommy Z is asking from TikTok, what advice would you give to someone who feels outcast at work? I think I'm not getting the entire picture here, but off the bat, ask yourself, have you made an extra effort to befriend others? And that means, if you have an opportunity to sit down with people at the pantry, or if you have an opportunity to nudge through them uh, in the canteen or the cafeteria, do that. I also think that it's the obligation, and I'm going to use the word obligation, of HR to properly introduce you to the other departments and team members. Because sometimes it's just awkward to do that on your own, as if you are asserting your identity and imposing it onto others. So it does matter to be introduced. If it's not HR, it could be your boss. Okay. Okay, LinkedIn user also says this. It depends on your personal goal. If you prefer being with your family, then stay at home country. If the goal is exploring or career, better pay abroad is better. I also want to add this. I think it's good to work abroad if you happen to be relatively younger. You have more energy, you have more appetite for risk, you have more space and allowance to make mistakes. You don't have any family that you think that you are abandoning. And I think it's exciting to fall in love in a different country as well. I think it's also exciting to make a different set of friends when your brain is still malleable and your perspectives can still be changed based on how you see the world. Okay. Uh, someone's asking me, if you're given a chance, which country do you prefer for migration? I would easily say it's Japan, because Japan's my favorite country, but I also know how the work culture in Japan is also not the best in the world. A lot of them would tend to stay late in the office even if they already done their job, because they want to make it look like they're committed. I'm not a big fan of that. Um, where would I work? I'm not that young anymore, so I would prefer it to be in a country wherein English is widely spoken. So I would say Australia, because I also think they have a good work-life balance. very abundant country as well. I would say either Australia uh, or UK. People might think that I would choose Singapore. Oh, Malaysia, of course. Malaysia, of course, because I'm used to it already. Um, Singapore is a nice country to move and become a permanent resident, but the adventurous part of me also thinks that Singapore is just too small. It's easy to bump into a friend in Orchard or in in Central Station, in the City Hall station, because it's just really small. And I think that after 3 years, you'll get bored of the country at some point. Okay. But I'm the biggest fan of Singapore in terms of their efficiency. Spain. Um, when I was younger, yes. I even studied Spanish because I was such a big fan of culture. My only issue with European countries like France, Italy, and Spain is that they're not aligned with the version of me who's just high powered in terms of career ambitions. These countries, from and I've been to all three countries, all of them for me are laid back, that they value more, which by the way isn't wrong. And that doesn't also mean that I'm right. They value more spending time with enjoying life, eating, drinking, being with their family, etc. I'm more the type who enjoys working. I also have political ambition, so uh, at this point, it's too late for me to choose and decide to move somewhere else. Ooh, Hong Kong. You know, Mask Lover from TikTok says this. My issue with Hong Kong is that I think it's overpriced. I hate, how do I say this? I don't want to get bashed online for saying this. So I'm going to be careful with my words. I am not the biggest fan of hospitality in Hong Kong. Uh, because I like it when I happen to be buying something from someone who also smiles. And while maybe they are not conscious about it, um, and my friends in Hong Kong, my friends know this, that I say this a lot, they just don't smile a lot. So Hong Kong's not going to be my favorite. I've also been brokenhearted really bad. I wrote that in my book 3. So Hong Kong is not the country that makes me feel alive. New Zealand also, yes. I think it's a good place. I think Australia and New Zealand are those two countries wherein you can really have a good sense of work-life balance. I'm just not a big fan of Australia and New Zealand. Most of their cities, by 7 o'clock p.m. or 8 o'clock, all the stores are closed. Seriously, they're all closed. Like if you need to buy something, you need to have that in your pantry. And I'm that guy. So when I get downstairs my apartment, I have two 7-Elevens surrounding me. I have McDonald's nearby. Uh, I love the 24/7 culture that Asia has. If you noticed, Southeast Asian countries, including Taiwan, including um, how do you call this? Which other countries are Japan? Sorry, Japan. Other places like Taiwan and Hong Kong, they have a 24/7 culture, right? So I cannot live in a country or city wherein everything closes down and weekends are just too quiet. I can't. I need that. The extrovert in me needs to have that vibe. Okay. Uh, Alpha Farah says on TikTok, agree. Masungit sila sa Hong Kong. Or in English, they're not as nice. I'm going to be politically correct here. Maybe from the perception of a Filipino, they seem to be rude, but maybe because they are just not the type of culture who smiles, they think it's normal. So we really can't just dismiss them as bad people. And I keep on reminding myself about that because culture is relative. Imposing that someone is not as cheerful as you does not mean that they are bad people already. So I try to see it with the benefit of the doubt. New York. Okay. J. Lane Benito says this on LinkedIn. How about New York? I had an opportunity to stay for a year in New York. I had a major client there before. Here's my biggest disappointment, and this is the reason why I don't talk about United States as often. I am not the biggest fan of United States, and that is because I don't feel safe. I also hate, and my Americans will agree with me in this, or at least my friends in California. I hate the tipping culture. I also don't understand why we don't talk about this too much, but America needs more beating when it comes to their tipping culture. What do I mean? You go to Starbucks, and when you swipe your credit card, even their baristas have a tendency to already encircle on your behalf that you have to put a 15% or 10% tip. This might sound disturbing, but it is true. If you go to fine dining places or even in casual restaurants, if you do not tip in United States, they will really chase you when you get out of the door. They will chase you and they will tell you, "Hi, can you please tell me what did I do because I did not get a tip?" And that has happened to me many times. It has happened to me in San Francisco, it happened to me in New York, uh, happened to me in Utah when I went there also last year. So I don't know. I am not a big believer of tipping because I will tip if I think that there is just exceptional service, way beyond what you're supposed to be doing. But if you just did your job right, I don't think I should be tipping you for reasons that is already, this is just the marketing person in me. For reasons that I think that should already be assumed with the price that was asked from me in the menu. If your reason for being tipped is because your owner is not paying you properly, then the problem is the system wherein we are not requiring business owners to pay their talents right. That should be the concern that should be addressed. You should not be burdening people to be the one to tip and correct the shortcomings of their capitalist owners who want to get away with that responsibility. Can I get an exclamation mark if you guys agree? That's how I see the world. That's why if I go to countries like Japan, where it's even offensive to tip, I just love it. And I like it when I see the menu and when it says 2,000 yen, you really pay only 2,000 yen. Right? That's just me. What are your thoughts? Yeah, so that's why. So just to end the New York part, New York for me was really like the Matrix. It's really a lot of things are small quantities. When you go to a hotel, their water bottle is not so a typical water bottle is like this. In United States and in New York, the water bottle is as small as this. You really feel that every establishment is trying to get the most profit with the least amount of costs. So I didn't like it because I think I was paying too much. Everything that I do in New York had an equivalent payment. And that for me changes the way I see the city. So, not the biggest fan. In those occasions, there was also a time wherein when a bombing happened in New York, I was only a few streets away. So, I don't feel safe. But again, for me, the best gift of America to the rest of the world is their culture of entrepreneurship, their culture of efficiency as well. So, it gets the cost of that gets neutralized by the other benefits of America. As Siran says, agree, same experience when I was in Vegas. Yeah, Vegas for me was also disappointment. It's really just a bunch of casinos on the streets, and there's food, salty food, if I must say. If you're the type who likes shopping malls, you will enjoy Las Vegas. But anything else, it's just an entire strip of casinos and malls. That's it. I think when people talk about enjoying being in Las Vegas, it's because of how they got drunk. They had a very memorable experience and all these things. So Las Vegas is a place where you have to create the memories. It's not a place where in the moment you land, you get fascinated by everything. So there. Okay, people are also agreeing with the tipping part. In the Philippines, at least Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, most Southeast Asian countries, I'm still happy that our culture of tipping is not as intense. We do tip, but you will not be forsaken if you do not tip at all. The waiters will not take it against you for two reasons. Number one, it's just not part of the culture. Number two, I think a lot of our waiters are properly compensated. Many of them are actual full time employees of restaurants. Ooh, J. Lane Benito outlets, another gift of the US to the world. Yes. Says, question about your profession? Aren't you OT? What does OT mean? Sorry, can you please tell me what does an OT mean? Aren't you an OT before? Could you please let me know what that means? Okay, while we're waiting for more questions, I'm gonna open the floor now for our prizes. Could you please give me a letter P as in prize if you guys are cool? We'll be giving away tickets to our upcoming workshops happening on Friday and also on Saturday. On Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you guys are now seeing on your screens the poster, just so you can have an idea what these are. Do you see that? Yes. So May 26, 9:30 to 12:30 is Leadership in Hybrid Work Era. The afternoon of May 26, Friday, is Level Up Your Social Media Marketing. The morning of Saturday, May 27, is Boost Your Confidence. Oh, that's 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And then the afternoon also of May 27 is Email Etiquette and Business Writing. So I want to give away 3 tickets for each platform, 3 tickets on Facebook, 3 tickets on LinkedIn, 3 tickets on TikTok, and also on YouTube if you get to answer my question. If you happen to win, please send me a private message and we'll send you instructions on how to claim your prize. Okay? I hope you guys are all cool. All ready now? Yes? Okay. So here's my question. Again, it's a trivia question. May have nothing to do with your careers. It's just I'm just fond of trivia as well. Okay? Yes? So my question is this. This is pertaining to most of the people on our show watching are from the ASEAN region, right? So Southeast Asian nations. My question is, tell me in which city in Southeast Asia can you find the headquarters of the office of the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations? Which city in Southeast Asia will you be able to find the headquarters? Okay, I'm gonna call out the winners. If you get this right, we'll call your name and you'll be able to get the prize. I love how people are making some guesses. You have to tell me the city, by the way. Tell me the city. Here's a clue. This city is well known for its really bad traffic. Is it Manila? Possibly, because it has really bad traffic. Is it Bangkok? Possibly, also bad traffic, right? So let me call out. So I think I've seen some correct answers now on the screen. So the correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is it's in Jakarta, Indonesia. Okay? Your answer needs to be Jakarta, not Indonesia, because it's about the city. My winners are, let's first call out the winners on TikTok. Okay? Wow, you guys are also quick, by the way. So my winners, first one is 𝗪cie𝗂𝗍𝗄 on TikTok. Congratulations. Second winner is Berong Yayamanin. Congratulations. Third winner is Istini. Istineee. Congratulations. Okay, let's make it 5 winners on TikTok. Fourth winner is Booker. Congratulations. And fifth winner is Francis Rosario. Congratulations. Okay. So, winners on TikTok, please send me a private message so we can call you and we can send you instructions on how to claim your prize. Now, folks on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, I need to call out you can only claim the prize if you are from Metro Manila, unfortunately, because you have to be able to attend this on site. Okay? So, winners are Ryan Surabasquez. Congratulations from YouTube. Second winner is Esper Santos from LinkedIn. Congratulations. Third winner is Kathleen Faye Maranan from Facebook. Fourth winner is J. Lane Benito. Congratulations. And then Luis Marvil Abala. Answer is also Jakarta. Congratulations. And then my last three winners: Esper Santos, Webster Punzalan, and finally from YouTube, Kid Diaries. Congratulations. Okay? So please don't forget, you have to send me a private message so I can send to you instructions on how to claim your prize. The correct answer is Jakarta. Coolness? All good? Yes? Okay, let's give an exclamation mark to our winners, please. And could you please give me some likes? We'll appreciate that. On TikTok, we have 8,700 likes, so we appreciate that. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you guys are so lagging, I swear. I'm so crying with the amount of likes that you guys are giving me. We don't deserve this treatment, by the way. Okay, please give us some likes, some hearts. We will appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, shall we continue now? Let's ask uh, a few more. I think we can spare five more questions for this. Okay. Webster Punsalan says, hello and thank you. See you face to face. We hope to see you as well. Jelaine Pedrajas from LinkedIn says, what are your advices to those who aspire to work abroad? Uh, know your objectives. Some people may just want to work abroad because they want to have a different experience in life. Some people want to have a better life. I think the biggest issue working abroad is that sometimes you tend to enjoy what's happening in another country. You forget that you have to save up money so that if you decide to go back home, you have taken opportunity of a country that likely has a stronger currency and likely will deliver you better savings. Okay? I'll give you an example. Again, this is coming from a place of privilege. It's also coming from luck. When I was able to work in Malaysia, Malaysia has a stronger currency versus the Philippines, but Malaysia, and if you happen to be in from Kuala Lumpur, you know this. Kuala Lumpur has relatively lower cost of living. Food is cheaper, transportation is cheaper, electricity and water is cheaper because a lot of things are subsidized by their government. It's a very oil-rich country. So even if I was spending a lot, I was still relatively saving a lot as well. It might not be the same case if you're working, let's say, in Europe or in America or even in affluent countries like in UAE, because even if you're earning a relatively higher salary, the rent is also high. Food is also expensive. Going out is also expensive. So identify your objectives, set a target. When I was in Malaysia, I had a spreadsheet and I would itemize January to December. How much am I earning? How much am I saving? How much were my expenses? Down to when I was 28, 29 in Kuala Lumpur, I would drink a lot during Friday or Saturday nights with friends. Because I knew that was one of my biggest expense. I would have a separate line on my spreadsheet identifying how much did I spend clubbing or going out that night. And then I would become more concerned because I was spending too much. I would be alarmed and I should minimize that expense. So I would do that and then I will tell myself I should be able to reach this amount of savings by end of December. Okay? I think if you don't measure it, you will not be able to improve it. As they say as a quote, what can be measured can be improved. What you can count, you can monitor and thereby influence before it gets too late. So that's my biggest advice. What's your objective? And for most of us, it's really earning a higher amount of salary. Therefore, you have to target a certain amount of savings. Because eventually, when you decide to go home or the economy doesn't do well, that you have to be sent home, at least you can tell yourself you maximized your stay in another country, not just by traveling and experiencing a different culture, but you earned relatively more than when you have stayed in your home country. Okay? Okay, question here from Jewelson. John, out of topic. No, don't worry. Nothing is out of topic. In a daily office workplace, does gossip really promote camaraderie? I observe these days people hate to talk about work. They want to do gossips to get them going through the day. Is there such a thing as healthy gossip? And what makes a news to become a gossip? When you say gossip, is it like gossip about your office mates or about the rest of the world? If it's just one, I think is we don't use the word gossip anymore. I think we're talking about stories. I think we're talking about news. Anything that you see on social media, anything that you see on what your friends talk about, for example, I think it's healthy because every time you share news and stories, you end up revealing your personality to your friends, which allows you to bond with each other. What I think is unhealthy is casting gossips or stories versus others because you want to ruin their identity so that you can get ahead of them at work. So it's pros and cons, but intrinsically in the Philippines as culture, we love talking about people. So it's hard to take that away from the system. What the question now, however, is when people inevitably want to talk about others, does it promote friendship or does it promote tearing each other's souls? Okay. LinkedIn user is saying, I'm sad I didn't win a ticket. I hope we get to award you next time. But I also recommend if you can change your name so we can also call you out. Because right now it's displaying as LinkedIn user instead. Coco Marvin says, gossip just sounds more formal and classy than marites, which is the Filipino name for someone who wants to gossip. Yeah, I agree. But I also think that gossip is a very 1990s or 2000 word. I think I don't know, cuento is what I would rather use, or stories again. Sarah is asking on TikTok, I'm torn. Should I quit working in a government setting and pursue better career and pay in the private sector? It depends on your objectives. Here's my take, and this is me saying it from someone who has worked with hundreds of private companies and government agencies. If you're looking for a company that will invest in your training, has open communication culture, has culture of progressing people based on merit, I'd go for private sector. The government sector, on the other hand, is very well known that when you decide to resign and retire at an old age, the benefits are tremendously generous. So it depends on what your objectives are. If you happen to be young, I'd say go and seek opportunities in the private sector because the culture will determine your happiness. And I do think that culture is more progressive and that diversity is more respected in the private sector than in the government. I also think that the government agencies have a more homogeneous uh, demographics. So, relatively, if you look at it, in certain agencies, the age of the workers in government agencies are 40s and up. If you happen to be in your 30s or 20s, sometimes you might feel that you are left behind. So, that might also be a consideration for you. Okay. Someone's asking from TikTok, John, what do you do if you want to tell your team to minimize overtime? I cannot find the words. First and foremost, ask and identify what is the reason why they are doing overtime work. Is it because they're also being imposed extraordinary workload? So it's really going to be hard to tell them to stop working when the source might just be you. The second thing I'd like to raise is if it's not you who's the source and they just really want to keep on working because probably they are inefficient such that it takes them longer time, I would recommend to do a discussion with them, a meeting, identify and do an interview or interrogation which part of their job is taking longer time that causes them to file an OT. And from there, do proper training or mentoring for them to speed up that specific part where they start to slow down. Okay? I also think that you should explain to them why you do not like them to do OT. Because you can't just instruct them to avoid doing overtime work. They have to understand the why. Most leaders forget the why part, right? What do I mean? When I say why, I just realized, by the way, that I didn't have my microphone properly in my phone. But sorry, before I continue, we're about to end anyway. TikTok, folks, is my audio clear with you guys all these times? Could you give me adjectives to describe how my audio is? Because geez, man, I have my microphones here. I forgot to plug it in just now. Is it clear? Okay. Clear naman pala. Okay. Okay. Crystal clear. Okay. Thank you. So I guess I don't need to use the microphone next time. That's what you get when you use a Samsung 22 Plus Ultra. By the way, I just had to plug that also. Okay. Okay, here's one more. LinkedIn user says, "Hi, John. Were you able to encounter a part-time worker in a company where you are in an operation setup? How does it work when it comes to their salary? Do you have any idea?" Obviously, part-time work will always have relatively lower salary than a full-time job, right? Because it's usually remunerated with the number of hours that you contribute. But please take note, between a part-time worker or what we know as a contractual worker or a consultant, most of the time you do not get the full-time benefits. The benefits of a full-time worker. What do I mean? Most part-time workers do not get health insurance. You do not get provident fund if ever your company offers that. You do not get guaranteed sick leave or vacation leave, right? People often wonder about this, but in the Philippine law, we have what we call as the Service Incentive Leave or SIL, in which any company is only required to give their employees 5 days of leave. 5 days only. Anything above that is an option out of the generosity of the company. So if you tell me that you have 20 days of sick leave, 15 days of vacation leave, that was an optional gift granted to you by your company. Okay? So for most part-timers, most contractuals, you usually get less, or you don't have anything at all, but you can get it because you ask for permission because it's an emergency issue. Those are the downside of being a contractual versus becoming a full-time employee. So it's usually the benefits that you miss out, especially for health insurance, maternity leaves, for example. That's also not provisioned, I think, for contractual workers. Okay. Juancho's asking, watch reveal. This is just a Samsung watch as well. So yeah, which I got for free when I got my Samsung 22 Plus Ultra. I'm a Samsung fan. I was an iPhone user before. I do think, however, that there are a lot of functionalities that Samsung is really way better off. Simple things such as, when you wave your hand and you make a screenshot, that's patented part. You wave your hand to make a photo, a selfie. I appreciate those things. And I think Samsung was the pioneer that we all benefited from having large screens. I remember there was a time when Steve Jobs said no one likes their phones to have big screens. And then they ate their hats because now iPhones also have their bigger screens. Free watch. Yes, it's a free watch. So this watch is for free. When the Samsung S22 Plus was launched, this was given for free. It was on top of it for a promo. Okay, let's cover last two questions before we end. I have to walk also my dog now. Tanjiro is sleeping. Tanji, Or we have to go in a while? Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm trying to look for a question that is unique because some of your questions are the similar as the others. Okay. JVC from HR from Facebook asks this. Do HR folks nowadays design their job posting according from the last position held, but they add something, for example, in case. Okay, I'm trying to speak in English because I know that some of our viewers are not able to understand in Tagalog. Do HR folks nowadays design their job postings according from the last position held? Okay, let me rephrase the question. Do HR folks modify the requirements that they post on job advertisements every time they notice that the applicants are also changing? Or after they interview a candidate, they notice that this should be added or should not be included in the job posting? And my answer here is maybe yes, some HR do that. But most of the time, guys, let's face it, most HR folks do not have 100% knowledge about the job description. The person who actually knows more about what the job requires is the manager of that person who's going to be uh, entered into the company. What HR only knows is I am sanctioned and authorized to only give this maximum amount of salary, this maximum amount of benefits, and to negotiate if the employee can work at this time. That's the only thing that they know. The rest, they have to ask and inquire from the department that has an issue of vacancy. Okay? So here's my tip. If you are negotiating about your salary, your compensation, or your benefit, don't just negotiate this from HR. If you can, negotiate this also with the boss who's interviewing you. Because in most situations, many managers get to interview first the applicant so that they have an idea if this person's really a good fit. Why is it important? Because sometimes managers do have a power of influence to tell HR to grant what you are asking because they want you so bad. I've seen this a lot. When I was working in a telecommunications company, I am aware that the boss of my boss was able to negotiate that an upcoming employee wanted her car plan in her former company to be added into her benefits. And because it was an exemption to the rule, they still allowed it because they want this person to be pirated so bad. That's a possibility. Okay? Meaning, my point here is HR does not determine everything about your employment. In most situations, even the manager can overturn the decision of an HR, right? Or they work hand in hand. Lane is asking on LinkedIn, is it an advantage to study again, this time abroad, then look for your desired uh, dream job? Okay, I'm going to be blunt with my answer here because a lot of people ask me, John, why is it that you do not talk about taking up masteral studies or MBA? Do you have plans of taking it? And my answer here will be it will depend on what your objectives are in life. I'm in a point in my life wherein I'm already happy and contented with my achievement. And I know that my current achievement are gonna snowball to further achievements in life if I work hard without having to take a masteral degree or an MBA. Does that mean that everyone should take the same opinion? Not necessarily, because not everyone may have the same achievements also in life, such that in order for them to gain more knowledge and expertise, they may be the type of person who needs to study more. If that is your route, go for it. If you think that you will be more confident with how you talk to people because you have finished and earned another diploma, go for that route. As long as you maximize it, go for that route. But I'm also a believer, because I have seen this many times, there are people wherein they took up a master's degree or an MBA degree expecting that their salary will significantly increase in their next job, and it didn't happen, and they got frustrated. Why is that? Most HR recruiters or even managers will applaud you for getting an additional degree, but if your experience does not translate into confidence that you will get the job done, your degree is as good as an additional line in that resume. Again, I want to be clear. This is not me demeaning that you should not be taking additional courses like an MBA or master's. I think that they tremendously change the way you see the world. Case in point, there is a reason why MBA degrees are very expensive, because the investments really are going to get back to you at some point because of the people that you have networked with, and because of the learnings and experience and the perspectives that you will gain. But if the person who earns that degree does not utilize it according to the intentions of that degree, I think that your investment will not be worth it. So it will depend. Okay? This is the unspoken story. If you notice, a lot of people who take up an MBA degree, the biggest benefit to them is that they have made friends, made connections with their classmates who in the future are also entrepreneurs. And in the end, because they have faith and confidence with each other, they're able to support each other's businesses afterwards. As they say, taking up an MBA degree is not just about learning concepts and theories, it's also about networking with people who are in the same big league. So consider that if that's applicable for you. Okay. Let's take one more question. I'm going to thank TikTok folks, by the way. You guys have given us 11,100 likes so far. So thank you for that. Okay, one last question. Let's take this up. Oh, Wancho says it feels liberating to know that taking up a master's degree isn't required to succeed. Yeah, it gives you the advantage because guys, it's a tautological argument. If you learn more, you will end up being better. That's a given. It's what you make out of it afterwards that will, however, materialize. Uh, will you be able to walk your dog? I think it's still raining. I'm lucky because my building is surrounded by roof, and it's a really long walk with roof. So my issue though is if my dog will poop, because he prefers pooping with grass. So, but we'll see. But we still need to go walk afterwards. Okay, last question here. Let me take this up before we end the session. This is from YouTube. Okay, wow, I think it's my first time to get the question from YouTube. Uh, we do hope we can increase our audience in YouTube, by the way. So, question in YouTube is this. Okay, John, if I decide to go back to my home country after working abroad for 5 years or 7 years, would it still be easy for me to find a job again? Of course, yes. Uh, in fact, you're going to have an advantage, because if you can prove to them that you have garnered different set skill, different experiences, it could be more advanced software or certification, then that means you're even marketable when you go back to your home country. Okay. I think your concern more is, have I been out of the loop for the longest time? And I don't think that should be your issue. Okay. So experience abroad even gives you an advantage. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna end the session now. Thank you for listening to this conversation. Thank you, as usual, for making me rant and talk about my life, technically speaking. Okay. And we hope to see you. Okay, we'll try to go live again tomorrow. I think I do have time. Please also let me know what are your favorite topics so we can consider them, because I'm running out of topics right now. I don't know what will be our topic for tomorrow. I'm still going to think about it later on. Okay, stay safe and stay dry. I heard in Manila that a super typhoon is about to come. I'm crossing my fingers that doesn't happen, because we have 2 full day workshops on Friday and Saturday. Okay. And as usual, I'm gonna leave on the screen for Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube our workshops if you guys are interested. See, my dog is so smart. He knows that the session is about to end, and he's now telling me that we have to walk. Sorry. I'm going to leave the banner just so you can have an idea on how to join our workshops. You can go to our website, jonathanyabut.com, and all of our courses, both live and also on site at SMX Convention Center, are available. Okay. Thank you and stay safe. Bye, guys.